Thank you, TOSSM again. Thank you, Chairman, Co-Chairman, Ajahn Virat, and Ajahn Chaiwat from Songkha Nakhari and Tulyapruek. I have to declare about this presentation. One of many slides here come from Dr. Pia On from Sunarari Hospital. Actually, she is an expert in the scaffold for the meniscus. But I have a link with her, like a collaboration on research. So I'm going to talk on the scaffold in the cartilage and meniscal treatment. So no conflict of interest. And this is my collaborator. So she need to learn something. I am not so sure. So today I'm come to talk. So today I'm going to talk on the scaffold. What is the scaffold? And the scaffold option in focal cartilage lesions, and third is global cartilage, and learning from the real science to development the new material for the Meniscal scaffold. When we talk about the cartilage tissue engineering, in the past we believe that the cartilage has been known as one is destroyed, it cannot be repaired. So the tissue engineering field, we would like to replacement or regeneration. This is the aims. So this is our weapons. So the two, we have the cells, bioactive molecule, and bioscaffold. We hope that if we combine three of these things, we can regeneration or substitute the hyaline cartilage, which is the return to the condition after the injury. So today we're going to talk about the role of the scaffold and in the cartilage and meniscus regeneration. The scaffold, what it is, the function is cell retention and cell delivery. The extensive screw for extracellular matrix production and maintains the chondrogenesis. And the property need to be degradable, non-toxic, non-cytotoxic, and mechanical competence. It should be strong enough to absorb the load. The milestone for cartilage tissue engineering, we start with the 1994 with Brittberg, do the stem cell by 3D culture. It's like the cell solution put in the cartilage defect and put the periosteum patch. When the time's over, the technologies come up. There are two steps by autologous transplantations and one step like the BMAC combined with some sort of the scaffold. And now we try to use the scaffold free in terms of the culture of the cells without the scaffold, like the chondrosphere. This is the example of the case. This is the femoral condyle defects that have a cartilage injury. This is the open techniques. We just debridements of the cartilage, that injury, and prepare the base. And this is the structure that cell culture with the scaffold, with collagen type 2 gels, and we have to design and cut into the round shape and put in the defect with close up with the periosteum fat. So in this technique, we use the scaffold like the gels and culture the cell we call the chondrocyte cell and put in the lesion like here. And the periosteum patch was harvested and stick with the juggernaut. This is the technique that called the second generation. We culture the chondrocyte and put in the defect. And after that, we do AMSAT for unload, allow the cartilage to heal. This is the classic story of scaffold use in the cartilage regeneration. When we talk on the scaffold, it can divide from the natural scaffold that can use the protein like the collagen. Like the previous case, we use the scaffold as a collagen gel and carbohydrate like hyaluronic acid gels, arginase, or even the synthetics that you use polylactic acid or polycarbolactone. Like this is maybe strong mechanical property, has a good mechanical property. However, you have to do like the open technique, I think. But if you use the gel, you can use the closed technique or arthroscope by put the cell and scaffold in the cartilage defect. From the research to market, there are a lot of products available that you can use. You can use like the natural scaffold. You can use the synthetic scaffold or scaffold free like chondrosphere. We can culture the cell 3D culture technique without the scaffold and put into the cartilage defect site. when we think about the tissue engineer cartilage, we have to think about the scaffold base that can be divided into hydrogels and the macroporous scaffold. The macroporous scaffold has a very good, strong mechanical property. However, you have to put in the open techniques. And the hydrogel base is like a new generation. You can use the dry scope and put the scaffold and the cell in the cartilage defects. And the new recently is scaffold free. That means you don't need to use the scaffold, but you induce the cells produce the matrix by themselves. In the clinical application, we aim to use one-step approach. One step, that means you don't need to harvest the cartilage and culture them like the ACI. So there are a lot of techniques that come out, but the cell need to use with the scaffold, maybe from synthetics, maybe from natural, or maybe mix. And we use BMAC, like the recent technology put the cell. However, the cell, I think the cell in the BMAC, maybe the yield of the cell is not equal the culture MSC. It's different one. They try to BMAC, it's like spin bone marrow aspiration to increase the yield of mesenchymal stem cell and put in the scaffold and apply in the cartilage defect. This is the one-step approach. Okay. Last but not least, recently we aim to use the cell that produce the matrix by themselves, like the condosphere. And I have the research in the past, we used the fat pad and culture with without the scaffold. That means we use the special technique for culture, it's like TD culture, and we can produce the small cartilage nodule, it's like the condosphere. And we aim to use this in the patient in the next generation. And we put in the animal study, we create the osteochondral defects and put the scaffold-free construct into this and have the publication and determine the hyaline cartilage at the repairable site. How about the scaffold-free cartilage in tissue engineering? There are some systematic review and about just only 6 studies to use this sort of construct to the patient. However, it's just only short-term follow-up and they are not significant improve for the hyaline cartilage compared to another technique yet. We move from the focal cartilage defect to global cartilage defect like the osteoarthritis. This is the different story. The osteoarthritis is global. It's like you have to think about the involve the moving joint. It's like whole joint. The cell stress, extracellular matrix, macro and micro injury, and adaptive repairs and molecular rearrangements, anatomy like the alignment of the joint, and all together it come up with the illness like the disease, like the anatomic disease, pathology disease, and illness. You have to think about all together, not only like the focal cartilage defect. This is the comparison between the normal cartilage and the abnormal condition like the osteoarthritis. You have to think about the subchondral bone pathology like the subchondral bone edema, like the cartilage defects or maybe fibrillation of the cartilage and synovium tissue as well that you have to concern. There are no magic bullet to treat in each condition. Arthroplasty is the standard treatment for the end stage of the osteoarthritis of knee. However, if you get to the early stage, how you try to treat these sort of conditions? Based on the principle of tissue engineering, the people try to get many stuff to treat the osteoarthritis, like the cell injection, the scaffold reagent. So it's come up with the stem cell treatment, hyaluronic acid treatment, like the scaffold, like the bubble, it's like soft shop, like the lubricants, and also the PRP, like the growth factor. This is the mimic tissue engineering, but in theory, it should be yes, but in clinical study, there are no strong, good clinical evidence to prove whether this injection can modify the disease. However, they can modify the functions and the symptom of the patient is better. Ideally, rheumatologists feel they would like to do demode. However, the demode is not possible yet. There are a lot of substance that try to modify the disease. However, in the OA is multifactorial. There are some genetics, mechanicals, and molecular level to change and to dictate the disease progression. Very difficult. We talk about the meniscus scaffold. This is one of the Ajahn Pia on work with me. I'm just collaborator. They try to do the meniscus scaffold like when they try to suture or repair, and they would like to put some kind of the scaffold in the reparative site to promote the regeneration of the scaffold. When we would like to do the research on this construct, you have to think about the cell sorts, like the superficial cells, chondrocytic cell, and fibroblast cell, and the target cell and the target scaffold is very important. The consideration or polymeric scaffold design, you have to think, this is the basic requirement of the scaffold, like the biocompatible, biodegradable, mechanical property need to be good, suitable porosity, like the hole in the scaffold, and bioactivity and turnable property is like the remodeling process of the implantation scaffold. You have to test for the mechanical support and cell adherence, protein attachment, cell proliferation, and differentiation on the scaffold. And the remodeling to the anisotropic tissue, this is very difficult. In vitro study, you can do mechanical support, cell adherence, and cell proliferation, but remodeling of the scaffold after implantation is something that very difficult because you have to take the histology after surgery and prove that the construct is the natural scaffold that can regeneration. It's not possible at the moment. So the key factor for do the polymeric scaffolds, like the relationship, you have to think about the natural polymer, like the collagen, the synthetic polymer, and also combine together with the 3D printer, with the Ajahn Jilan. We'll talk on the next lecture, and the lyophilite to collect this stuff to do the meniscus tissue engineering. We have some work, the collaborator with Ajahn Pia on that develop the injectable based scaffold like for the meniscus. Apart from the PRP, we can use the combine with the cassava puff is like some plant, very easy to find in the northeast of the Thailand, and put of that with the synthetic scaffold, it injectable one at we hope that we can use that into the reparation site with the cells and improve the promote tissue healing. We can do the electron microscope and the mechanical properties with the different concentration. In conclusions, the tissue engineering is more feasible in the cartilage and meniscus treatments. However, we talk about the clinical trial is more specific to particular condition. 1, 2 cannot use in every case. 1, 2 need to use in specific one. My opinion, I think natural and synthetic composition scaffold is the best. They need to biomimic. Scaffold constructs may be more promising. Scaffold free, maybe next generation, and they can use in some specific condition like the young and traumatic lesion. One state is preferable. This is the conclusion of this talk. Thank you very much.